India is a federation. A federation is a system of government with two levels that share governing responsibility. There is a single national authority and several state or regional authorities. In this chapter, we will study the following topics. India is a federation. The national level of governance looks after national concerns including currency, defense, and taxation. The state level looks after state concerns such as provision of health, road, and education. Organs of the government. A federation therefore should have a central government and state governments. The powers and functions of both the central and state government are defined by a written constitution. These governments are organized and function in accordance with the norms and practices of parliamentary systems of government. Both the central and state governments have three organs: executive, legislature, and judiciary. The government of India is divided into three tiers: legislative, executive, and judiciary. State Government of India Chart. State Legislative. Executive Governor is the highest executive of state. Judiciary. High Court. Political units. There are two types of political units in Indian Federation: states having autonomous government of their own and union territories administered and supervised by the center. Constitution. As we know, the Constitution of India also provides for parliamentary form of government at the state level. Legislative Assembly. The Legislative Assembly is the lower house of the state legislature, and it is also called the popular house. In states where there are only single-chamber legislatures, the legislative assemblies carry out all the functions of the legislature. Composition of Legislative Assembly. A legislative assembly is a place where all the elected representatives, MLAs from ruling and opposition party, meet to discuss about the governance of the state. Legislative Council. The Legislative Council is the upper house of the state legislature. India is a federation. A federation is a system of government with two levels that share governing responsibility. There is a single national authority and several state or regional authorities. In this chapter, we will study the following topics. The head of the state is a governor appointed by the center for a term of 5 years. There is a council of ministers to aid and advise the governor. When elections to the Legislative Assembly are completed, the task of forming a government starts. The leader of the party with a majority in the State Legislative Assembly is invited by the governor to form the government. He is sworn in as the Chief Minister. Oath of Office. The Chief Minister and all the ministers before assuming their office have to take oath of office. The oath of office is administered to them by the governor of the state. Governor's discretionary powers. Like the President of India, the governor also has certain discretionary powers in the matter. They may be called into play only when no political party has clear majority behind it. The appointment of the State Council of Ministers is also made by the governor. But here again, it is the Chief Minister who selects his colleagues from amongst the members of his party in the Legislative Assembly, the Vidhan Sabha. The governor makes the formal appointment. The governor. Every state has a governor. He is the constitutional head of the state. Appointment of the governor. The governor is appointed by the President of India. The President of India acts on the advice of the Prime Minister while appointing a governor. Sometimes the Chief Minister of the state concerned is also consulted. At times, one governor may be appointed for 2 or more states or union territories.
For appointment to the office of governor, the Constitution provides that he should be a citizen of India, he must have completed 35 years of age, he must not be holding any office of profit. By convention, he must not belong to the state to which he is appointed.
Oath of office. The governor, before entering office, takes an oath of office before the Chief Justice of the concerned High Court or, in his absence, before the senior-most judge of the High Court. Term of office. The President appoints the governor for a term of 5 years, but he holds office at the pleasure of the President. He may be reappointed after the expiry of his term. However, the President can remove him even before the expiry of his term. He can resign earlier due to health or any other reasons. Position of the governor. The functions and powers of the governor are vast in the sphere of state administration. He is not only the head of the state, he is also the agent of the central government. His position has been beautifully summed up in the following words. The governor is the constitutional head of his state, just as the president is of the union. President or governor's rule. If the Council of Ministers do not function properly, the governor can advise the president to declare a constitutional emergency in the state. Such a recommendation is also made when the governor finds that the Council of Ministers has lost the confidence of the majority of the members in assembly and a new ministry cannot be easily formed, or there is a complete breakdown of law and order. Executive powers. He is the executive head of the state government. All executive actions of the state are taken in his name. He appoints the chief minister, and on his advice, other ministers are appointed to constitute his council of ministers. He makes high appointments like those of the Advocate General, Chairman, and members of the State Public Service Commission. Legislative powers. The first session after the general election also begins with the address of the governor. He summons and prorogues the sessions of the state legislature. He can also dissolve the state Vidhan Sabha. Every year, the first session of the state legislature begins with the governor's address. The bills passed by the state legislature are subject to his assent. In case the legislature is not in session, he may promulgate an ordinance to meet the requirement of the situation. He has the power to address the state legislature and to send written messages to it. India is a federation. A federation is a system of government with two levels that share governing responsibility. There is a single national authority and several state or regional authorities. In this chapter, we will study the following topics. Categories of ministers. The Chief Minister and other ministers form the Council of Ministers. The Council of Ministers in several states consists of three categories of ministers: Cabinet Ministers, Ministers of State, and Deputy Ministers. The last two normally do not hold independent charge of ministries. Salaries and allowances. The ministers are entitled to a monthly salary, allowances, and various amenities. These are determined by the state legislature from time to time. Term. Normally, the Chief Minister and the Council of Ministers are appointed for as long as the Legislative Assembly, of which they are the members, remains in power. In case of death of a Chief Minister or his resignation from his post, the Council of Ministers stand automatically dissolved. They can be removed from office in exactly the same manner by the State Legislative Assembly as the Lok Sabha can remove the Prime Minister and his Council of Ministers at the center. The Chief Minister can ask a minister to resign and can appoint another one in his place. He can expand his cabinet. The Chief Minister remains in office so long as he enjoys the confidence of the Legislative Assembly. Powers and functions of the Chief Minister. As you have already read, the governor is the executive head of the state, but the real control of the state government rests with the Chief Minister and the Council of Ministers. The following powers of the Chief Minister make this point abundantly clear. Formation of the Council of Ministers. The ministers are appointed by the state governor on the recommendation of the Chief Minister. Distribution of portfolios. He distributes portfolios among the ministers and supervises their work. He has the right to reshuffle their portfolios as well. Removal of ministers. The Chief Minister can remove any minister if he is not satisfied with his work. Chief Spokesman of the Government. He is the chief spokesman of the government. He is given the authority to issue authoritative statements on state policy. Chief Advisor of the Governor. He is the chief advisor of the governor on matters of state administration. Appointments. All those major appointments which are technically made by the governor, in reality, are made on the recommendation of the Chief Minister. Presides over the meetings of the Council. He summons the meetings of the Council and presides over them. He also decides the agenda of the meetings. Link between the Governor and the Council of Ministers. He is the major link between the Council and the Governor. It is his constitutional obligation to communicate all decisions of the Council of Ministers to the Governor. Powers and functions of the Council of Ministers. Formulation of policy. The first important function of the Council of Ministers is the formulation of policies on the basis of which administration of the state is conducted. Control over the administration. The Council of Ministers is the real executive of the state. Each minister is made in charge of his department. It is his responsibility to run the administration of the department smoothly. Maintenance of law and order. It is the responsibility of the Council of Ministers to maintain law and order in the state. Appointments. All major appointments of the state are made by the governor on the advice of Council of Ministers. Legislative functions. On the advice of the Council of Ministers, the governor decides the time of summoning and prorogation of the legislature. The governor's speech to the legislature at the beginning of new session is prepared by the Council of Ministers. Majority of the bills are introduced in the legislature by the Council of Ministers. Old bills, if need be, are also modified by this body. Financial functions. It is the Council of Ministers which prepares the budget and decides the financial policy of the state. The final authority for this approval is, of course, of the state legislature. India is a federation. A federation is a system of government with two levels that share governing responsibility. There is a single national authority and several state or regional authorities. In this chapter, we will study the following topics.
Role of the government in health. After independence, India became one of the pioneers in providing medical facilities to all and sundry, with focus on primary health care. Considerable expansion and diversification took place in different services relating to health, family welfare, and nutrition. Today, we possess a very large and widespread network of governmental, voluntary, and private health infrastructure managed by an equally large number of medical and paramedical personnel. Medical care system. The government has established a three-tier medical care system: primary, secondary, and tertiary. Primary healthcare infrastructure provides a direct link between people and medical facilities at the grassroots level, like villages and towns. Primary health centers, or PHCs, deal with most of the basic medical needs of the populace, give integrated promotive, preventive, curative, and rehabilitative medical services to people close to their homes, and act as instruments for implementing all government programs relating to health and family welfare. Community health centers, although having services of certain specialists at their disposal, also form a part of primary level. Cases found too complicated by PHCs are first referred to CHCs. District hospitals form secondary healthcare centers. Hospitals and institutions meant for particular diseases and specialized fields only constitutes tertiary level of health infrastructure. Healthcare in India. The following table gives brief information about the situation of healthcare in India. What can be done? In modern times, the importance of health is being fully realized by every country, and it rests with the government. In India, however, there is marked non-availability of and access to healthcare facilities in different parts of the country. The central government has launched several health programs aided by state governments. In this regard, the Kerala government took some major initiatives in 1996. For this, the state government allotted 40% of the entire state budget to the local bodies or panchayats. Special emphasis was given to water, food, women's development, and education. In addition, with the help of local bodies, various problems were checked out thoroughly. For example, sanitation, water contamination, the working of schools and anganwadis, and health centers. All these measures helped greatly to improve the situation.